versus D2 in a Warlock mirror match. And you can see from both sides here, we see the Void Collar for Tides, but mostly we're seeing Zoo components. And we see the same from D2 as well with the Imp Gang Boss.
Yeah, so it's still hard to tell exactly what type of Zoo this is. If it's just a heavy Zoo or if there's more demon reliance. Void Collar doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of demons.
Yeah.
Sometimes Void Collar is used exclusively to pull Doom Guards from your hand. Sometimes you'll see Mal'Ganis as well in the Zoo because it just synergizes so well with if you have Void Walkers on the board or even Imps from Implosion or Imp Gang Boss. If you can pull a Mal'Ganis early on with a Void Collar, sometimes that's just game over right there. So...
yeah, I mean, I would expect we're not seeing too much of the Demon Lock variant because we see the Sea Giant from Tides. So I think, I mean, as you say, Void Collar, even in a very traditional Zoo, at least has Void Walkers, Imp Gang Boss, and Doom Guards to pull. So, you know, there's at least 6 targets in the deck for the Void Collars. So you don't even necessarily need to build in more demons to make Void Collar worthwhile at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Well, we see strong openings from both sides. We see the Knife Juggler and the Egg from Tides with the Flame Imp and the Direwolf Alpha from D2. This is a really difficult position here. It's one of those things where you could go face and really push your advantage, but also that Knife Juggler is such a big threat that you really need to deal with. And you want to protect the Direwolf Alpha, but if you run the Flame Imp, you're losing 2 damage. It's the difficult decisions you have to make. And people say Zoo is an easy deck to play, but it's actually not. It can be really hard. We saw this matchup a couple of times yesterday. This matchup, this mirror match, is actually really, really hard because you have to know when to press your advantage and when to control and when to be defensive.
Yeah, well, the thing about mirror matchups in faster decks is that a lot of times one mistake can cost you the game. And a lot of it's draws as well, especially Zoo. Because if one player gets 1-drops and the other player doesn't get 1-drops, the game is pretty much over because Zoo doesn't have any comeback mechanics. So once you fall behind on board, your opponent plays 2 1-drops on turn 1, you don't have a play, you're just tapping. Card advantage doesn't really mean anything because it's all about the board with this matchup.
Yeah, Tide's falling behind a little bit there on the board, but an Implosion gives him some board presence that he sorely needed. A pretty good Loatheb draw, though, for D2 on turn 5. That's pretty perfect to draw that on curve. It's not going to really affect much for the spell power, but we could well see the Sea Giant coming down here unless... oh, D2 option, yeah, not to clear, so Sea Giant is an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna silence the Egg, drop the Sea Giant. I'm not sure about dropping the Sea Giant when the Loatheb is there. I guess you kind of potentially reduce the impact of the Sea Giant quite a lot. And double Implosion for D2. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that Implosion come down on the Giant.
The value of big creatures in Zoo isn't in the Zoo mirror matchup isn't as great as the value of big creatures in other matchups. Just because Zoo has so many ways to buff up one of their creatures to take out a single creature, like Power Overwhelming, Implosion.
That's terrible.
Now he's got to
really
trade both
bad.
of those in. He just needed at least 3 to be able to just cleanly trade the Loatheb in. That's really rough. He might just go face because put his opponent at 7. If he taps, it's sort of a liability. Forcing his opponent to make the trades, which he's at 24 health, which is pretty healthy for a mirror matchup like this, so I don't think he's really worried.
Yeah, and you can see these matchups just snowball so quickly, and Tides is in a pretty bad position here on 7 health. Does have the Defender of Argus, so he can put a bit of defensive wall up, but there is the Implosion in hand for D2 to try and get through some of those taunts as well. So looking like the Haunted Creeper here, I would expect probably Haunted Creeper and Defender of Argus. Just on the 2 Death Rattle minions to shore up this board a little bit.
Yeah. This isn't really a big health wall, though. This is a wall that you want early in the game because it's not really... the purpose of it isn't really to block damage. It's just to make the trades really annoying because you take out the Egg with 3 health, you summon a 4/4. You take out the Spider with 3 health, you summon 2 1/1. So... well, he can make use of that Egg at least with the Void Terror, but it looks like he's not going to do that this turn because no mana.
Yep, rolls 4 that time. Again, when he only needed 3 this time, he rolled 4. So he's able to kill off that Sea Giant as well. And a board of a really annoying board here for D2. Lots of Imps and the Argent Squire. But it's pretty scary. But actually, that Power Overwhelming and the direwolf alpha. Tides actually has quite a lot of firepower in his hand here.
I don't know if it'll really mean much, because at this point in the game, he has to trade everything. He can't leave creatures on the board, because he can't leave damage on the board. So he's going to tap, because Doomguard is just lethal off the top, but doesn't get it, can empty his hand, but how he's going to do this is crucial. Because at the same time, 20 health, it seems like a lot, but if you're leaving these high damage creatures on the board, or at least high damage for Zoo, like the 4 damage Nerubian, the 3 damage Voidcaller, that really adds up quickly. You add on a Power Overwhelming and then a Doomguard, and sometimes you can lose the game if you just don't calculate correctly and just go straight for face. So
yeah, this is actually a really tough spot for D2. This is one of those spots where the decision he makes here could determine whether or not he takes this game, or whether or not he gets burst down and gets run away with here. This is a pretty scary board as Zoo goes, as you said. And it's 11 damage on the board. Doomguard would take up to 16, as you say. Power Overwhelming would be up to 20. So all Tides would actually need to do is top deck a Doomguard as well. So as with quite a few Zoo matchups, this might well come down to. And is he playing the Knife Juggler after the Void Terror? That's
he doesn't want to summon an imp, I don't think.
That's true, yeah.
He doesn't want to put any extra power on the board.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh, there's the Abusive Sergeant. We're getting close.
Yeah, but at the same time, he can't really afford to tap. He can only tap if he knows he's going to clear the board. He actually can clear the board. If he puts the Direwolf in between the Nerubian and the Imp Gang boss. Or actually, it doesn't really matter, just as long as
he
gets
use the
off
Abusive
Imp Gang
Sergeant
boss, and then use the Abusive Sergeant to clear off. So, actually, I don't think he'll tap anyway, just because he doesn't want to get into Doomguard range. He doesn't want to get into top deck range. But he can at least clear the board here, which is actually a pretty big deal, because that means there's no way that he could possibly top deck lethal. Because usually Zoo decks don't run any direct spells anymore. They used to run Soulfire. I've seen Zeus tech in 1 Dark Bomb.
Yeah.
But that's 6,
Even
7, 8, 9, 10,
Mortal
11, 12.
It's pretty much just Implosion. This is getting pretty close to lethal here.
Yeah, he's 2 damage off right now, so I don't know if he wants to risk tapping into it. He might even clear the board here. He might even take out the egg and the Nerubian just to make sure that Power Overwhelming Doomguard won't kill him. But he actually decides to keep it down. I might have just cleared that whole thing there, because now Defender of Argus, Power Overwhelming, double Power Overwhelming, cards like that would actually win him the game. It would make it so he wouldn't even have a chance. And there's Doomguard. If he did have Power Overwhelming in his hand and top deck the Doomguard, the game would be over. And he would still have lethal next turn, even if he cleared the egg and the Nerubian.
But this is probably going to be enough for Tides here. The Doomguard coming a little bit too late. A series of dreadful draws for D2, things like the Clockwork Gnome, standing in his way of getting the Doomguard. But as we said, from such a great start, getting his opponent down to 7 health, was then bursted all the way down himself. And this is these really swingy plays in the Zoo mirror match. He's trying to think if there's a way out, but I don't think he can take enough power off the board.
Yeah, D2 looks like a giant. And he's really hungry, and he's looking at those eggs like he wants to eat them.
I wouldn't eat those eggs. They're probably not that nice.
Been there for a long time. Oh, looks like I think he realizes that there doesn't seem to be a way out of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's trying to play around with here.
Ooh, the reversing switch. Yeah, I still think it's enough damage, because the Direwolf's going to buff it. Wolfblade comes out with Power Overwhelming, easily lethal.
Yeah.
Alright.
Absolutely. So that's going to be game number 1. Going over to Tides. I say looked really assured for D2 right at the start there. But Tides able to burst it down. Over a course of about 4 turns, just able to take control of the board. Really make a difference. And yeah, that's going to be game number 1. So the Warlock for Tides is locked out. He's got his Hunter and his Druid here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see D2 continue with the Zoo, just because it does have such consistent matchups. But the Hunter versus Zoo could be an interesting matchup, and that's obviously pretty favored for the Hunter because of the way the hero powers interact.
Yeah, that's true. Because when both hero powers damage one player, usually the player that's getting damaged by both hero powers is going to be the one to lose in faster decks. Also, the new style of Zoo is sort of flood the board technique. Implosion, Imp Gang Boss makes Unleash the Hounds so much stronger. Usually they have a lot more low health targets than what they used to. Like sub 2, like 1 health targets than they used to. So Explosive Trap's really great. And usually they can just outrace, and a Zoo is forced to either play board control, which usually never works, or race themselves, and sometimes they can put out a lot of damage, but usually Hunter has that. And it is going to be Hunter versus Warlock.
Yeah, we're going to see the Hunter versus the Warlock, and not sure what version of Hunter Tides might bring. Could be Face Hunter, could be a mid-range Hunter. Either way, it's a pretty good matchup for him against Zoo.
Yeah. And D2's sort of on the ropes here. You mentioned he wants to keep playing the Zoolock just because it does have decent matchups against a lot of things, but it doesn't really have decent matchups against almost anything that Tides is bringing. Tides also, his last deck is Druid, which Druid can, if they have a slow start, sometimes it can be rough against Zoo. But really all a Druid needs is like spells in their opening hand, like either Wrath or Swipe, or an Innervate play early. Even just an Innervate Shade can completely stop Zoo in its tracks because it trades up against a lot of 1-drops, and if you take out the first couple creatures for Zoo without losing anything much of your board, and that Shade starts to get out of hand, sometimes that's all you need to win the game as a Druid. So
exactly. Well, we do see this is probably a Face Hunter from Tides. You can see the Worgen. We saw the Wolf Rider in the Mulligan. Good array of 1-drops. Does have to make the choice between the Worgen, the Leper Gnome, and the Abusive Sergeant. Goes for the Leper Gnome, which is pretty good. It trades up well with things like Flame Imp. We're going to see D2 just go face here.
It's going to be a lot of going face.
Yeah, certainly. Could actually see him clear the board here. He could coin out the Eagle Horn Bow, and I think that is actually what he's thinking about here.
Yeah. In this matchup, this is one of the only matchups where Hunter plays slight board control. And usually they play slight board control early on in the matchup, just because Zoo is so momentum-based. You play those early creatures and you use those early creatures to sort of run away with the game. And as long as Hunter can clear the first couple, make room for their cards to hit face, make the Warlock start running out of cards so they're tapping every turn and trying to top deck every turn. As soon as you put them on the defensive, you basically already won. So
exactly, this is a pretty good hand for Tides. Does have options. The Knife Juggler, the second Leper Gnome coming into hand as well. So it's always 1-drops his options as well. But yeah, just opting to hero power and build up and develop the Worgen. I like this. I think you need to start hero powering as early as possible in this matchup, just to really hammer home that advantage that you have over the Warlock hero power. And putting nothing on the board that you can kill is pretty useful as well, so you can't proc this Nerubian in any way. He also gets a Lothab for next turn again. That's pretty useful for D2.
He also wants to be conservative with the Knife Juggler or Unleash the Hounds combo. So last turn he didn't really have any plays. He would either float a mana by playing Worgen Infiltrator and Leper Gnome, or play one in hero power. And if you're going to play one, Worgen Infiltrator is probably the better one to play in that situation. Has burn now as well, so this is... I really like this hand right now from Tides.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty strong hand. He's thinking about trading the Direwolf with the Worgen, which wouldn't certainly be a bad option. Does have the Knife Juggler as well.
The Lothab's gonna suck though.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty bad.
He wants to set up that turn 5 Knife Juggler and Unleash the Hounds combination. That's what he's playing for in his hand right now. That's what he's playing around in his hand. So he's like, okay, next turn he's probably going to play 2 creatures. I'm probably going to get a 3 or 4 Knife Juggler Unleash the Hounds. But most likely Lothab's just going to be dropped here, and that's going to make Tides of Time very sad. Sad boys indeed.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. Again, turn 5 Lothab for D2. Got it in the first game. He got it in the second game. It's pretty pretty impactful in this matchup. As you say, it's going to be able to stop the Unleash the Hounds. It's going to give him a little more time with his board to develop what he wants to do. And again, the decision whether or not to trade for this Leper Gnome, I think he probably has to go for it, because this Leper Gnome can do so much damage with the Death Rattle that you just need to take it off the board as quickly as possible. So he's going to trade it, see what spare part he gets. Time Rewinder, not terrible. He's actually going to save the Loatheb.
I don't like this. He could wait for a better draw for Void Terror next turn. I know he wants to Void Terror the egg and get that power, this play is putting a lot of power on the board. But I feel like if he was a little bit more conservative with it, he could get an even better Void Terror with a stronger board that he could protect with the Loatheb the following turn. I guess it's pretty inconsequential though, because he's still getting a big Void Terror now. I said earlier, one of the win conditions of Zoo in this matchup is just straight up racing, and when you have a 7 attack creature on the board on turn 5, you'll usually fare pretty well. Oh, and he gets really good juggles to the face.
The juggles to face. That's the perfect juggles.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want. Oh no! That's actually really close.
Wow, that's 16
damage.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And it can actually, I mean, even if oh god, there's so much damage in hand. Tides actually has lethal as well.
Yeah, so
Tides is super lethal.
That's not lethal anymore though, because the kill command's gone now, and so he'll have 3, 4, 5. Oh no! I think that's
exactly lethal, right?
Is it?
Isn't it?
It's 3 damage from the Glaive Zuka, 2 on board. That's
it's
5.
1 off.
One off. It's 1 off. That Loatheb is,
and that 1 trade as well.
Yeah. He could he's also 1 mana off. He could also use the second Glaive Zuka and just override the first to just get the battle cry.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So that's going to be game number 2 for the D2. Tides 1 mana off lethal. Yeah, he knows it's over, obviously. So D2 getting a win with that Zoo. So both players now locked out of their Zoo. And this Face Hunter is a pretty difficult matchup for D2. He has the Druid and the Paladin left, and we will, I guess, wait and see which one of those he decides to bring. It's difficult to see which of these decks has a good matchup against the Face Hunter.
Yeah, so it turns out that Loatheb play, not playing that Loatheb on that turn was actually really good, because he's still got the high...
Zapcasters.
Well, yeah, he's still got the high power Void Terror. In my head, I was thinking if he made the Void Terror play that turn, his Void Terror would only be a 3-attack Void Terror, because I thought he was just going to get the egg, just get the egg out with the Void Terror and just have like a 3/5 Void Terror just to get a bigger body on the board. But he played it really well. He got a lot of power on the board, and then what he did was he set up his own lethal and blocked his board with the Loatheb, held onto his board with the Loatheb. So it ended up being a really smart play in the end.
Yep. D2 is going to go to Paladin. Tides of Time is going to stick with the Face Hunter, which I think is a pretty smart move. It's a pretty good deck for him against this lineup. So what can Paladin do here to beat the Face Hunter?
It's really hard. It's really, really tough. They have to have excuse me. They have to have a really strong opening hand. Zombie Chow is almost a must. Zombie Chow or Shielded Minibot is almost a must. They have to be able to trade early with the first couple creatures that Face Hunter's putting out. But the nature of Paladin in the sort of heavy tempo, flood the board and get like a big board control early on, just doesn't work against Face Hunter, because that actually works against you. And a lot of times, Paladin, their board takes a little bit of time to ramp up. They can't race like Zoo can. They can't have heavy taunts like a Ramp Druid can. They don't have overwhelming amounts of health gain like a Priest or like a Warrior. So all the things that you need against Hunter, Paladins just don't have it. And then pile on top of that the fact that again, their hero power sort of works against them in the form of Unleash the Hounds, Knife Juggle, Unleash the Hounds. It's usually a really tough matchup.
Yeah, and this is a pretty bad hand for D2. The 2 piloted Shredders Consecrate is going to be potentially useful later on, but certainly not right now. Has the Owl for this Mad Scientist, though, so actually it's not a bad start. To be able to reduce the secrets, but He's just going to use the Glaive Zuka, start piling in that damage, and there's just nothing that D2 can do to stop the onslaught.
Yeah, especially since this turn, unless he draws into something, he's just going to hero power. Okay. At least he draws into the Knife Juggler, because that could have been pretty bad. But I don't know if he wants to use that yet. No, he has to. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is basically conceding the board over. Knife Juggler, he might want to save Knife Juggler for a Knife Juggler muster. But I don't think you can really afford to try and protect your own Knife Juggler just to get a bigger combo later, because you're not going to have time to do any of that.
Yeah, it's really difficult to know when he's going to be able to play this Knife Juggler. Like you said, it's the Consecrate's going to come down now, and it feels pretty good about being able to Consecrate the Worgen and the Knife Juggler. That's two pretty potent threats that are hard to deal with any other way. But we're just going to see a Knife Juggler in response. Oh, this is really difficult. The health of D2 is just taking such a beating so quickly, and he does have Loatheb in his hand for next turn. It's a pretty good response.
The one thing you notice about D2 when he's playing is he takes a lot of sips.
He's a very hydrated player.
He is one of the most hydrated players in the competitive Hearthstone scene right now. I swear, sometimes it feels like it could just be the same can over and over again, and he probably has like a little tiny like Brita filter next to him, and he fills his cup just with like 2 sips every 5 minutes. And then just takes one little sip from it. Well,
I did talk about being a tennis coach and a tennis player. I mean, maybe that's, you know, he is an athlete. He knows the importance of being hydrated.
A cyber athlete.
Well, he's also a real life athlete as well. So maybe that's carrying over from his real life athletics.
Real athletes. You have no power here.
So, True Silver Champion here, Aldor Peacekeeper. He's going to go for double Aldor. I mean, this does take the board. And there isn't actually a lot in the hand of Tides of Time to respond to this. And he's just going to go for the Leroy play with the Knife Juggler. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, kills one of the Whelps as well.
Oh, I thought it almost snipes both Whelps, but he's basically... he wins next turn unless there's some sort of life gain.
Consecrate!
Oh! Well, he can't consecrate here because he sort of has to choose Silver Champion. Actually, there's no way for him to win.
Yeah, I don't think there is, unfortunately.
Consecrate is a really big draw, and if he had like 3-4 more health, Consecrate would have been amazing. He could Consecrate this turn. Next turn, he could True Silver Champion and start healing up. He had board control. He was just starting to turn it around, but against
he needed 8 health for Consecrate to be a good draw, because he's going to take 2 damage from the Leper Gnome and then 5 damage from Kill Command Hero Power, even if he clears the board. So he needed 8 health for Consecrate to be a good draw. So even True Silver attack face, even if he had a way to clear the board, True Silver attack face wouldn't work because he only goes up to 7, and then you could just run the Leper Gnome in to something, and he's going to take 2 damage from the Leper Gnome anyway. So the healing from the True Silver is basically null.
He's hoping that there's going to be no direct damage in the hand of Tides.
He knows, though. He knows it's a kill command.
Something like 22 out of the 30 cards in Face Hunter do direct damage. And he's already seen a couple of the cards that don't do direct damage. So, yeah, that is going to be game. So Tides is going to take a 2-1 lead in the series. And that matchup is nearly doomed from the start if you don't have like a turn 1 play when you're the Paladin.
So, yeah, I mean, as you say, the draws could have been better for D2. Could have been good enough for him to get a good start with the Zombie Chow and the Shielded Mini-Bot. Didn't draw them, wasn't able to get the match going, and pretty predictably, Face Hunter took over. And D2, he does have his Druid now to run to the Druid, and the Paladin for the Druid of Tides. But I guess now the Face Hunter is locked out for Tides. I guess that's kind of what D2 was thinking, right? I mean, I can win this matchup if I get Zombie Chow and Shielded Mini-Bot, but it's not a great chance, and if I just sort of sack it into the Face Hunter, give him his Face Hunter win, and that gives me 2 opportunities to beat his Druid.
Yeah. So Tides, of course, just needs that win with Druid. D2 going to queue up the Paladin. Pretty smart. This Paladin usually has a pretty solid matchup against Druid, where Paladin is developing usually multiple threats per turn. Druid usually only plays one, and Paladin has a lot of ways to deal with some of the really annoying stuff that Druid can do. If a Druid plays an early Innervate play, then Paladin has Aldar Peacekeepers. Druid builds up too overwhelming of a board and starts threatening Force Nature Savage Roar. Paladins have a quality Consecrate to be able to as a comeback mechanic. Also, Paladins usually tend to have a board that's filled with lots of medium-sized creatures like Paladin Shredder. Even just their hero power can turn into 3/3s with Quartermaster, and Druids struggle with clearing lots of medium-sized creatures.
All right, okay. So we're going into the gameplay here, and we see from the hands some pretty interesting deck choices. Trogzor the Earthinator for the Paladin. I love that card. Hasn't seen enough play since GVG, but more interestingly, looking at the Druid of Tides of Time, I was going to say that what we haven't seen, even though Druid is so popular, what we haven't seen yet is a Druid built to beat other Druids. And we see a Grove Tender from Tides, which suggests this may be a Mill Druid and then Naturalized as well. This is Mill Druid.
Oh man. Okay, so Tides of Time is one of the stronger Mill players. He was one of the innovators of Mill Rogue. Him and Freshka are the two people that stream Mill Rogue the most, and he streamed Mill Druid a lot of times as well. And there was one time where he was making a climb up Legend, and he was like top 100 Legend playing like Mill Rogue from 800, which was, Mill Druid from 800, which is pretty ridiculous. And they've gotten a couple tools since then as well. The Grove Tender being one of them, but I'm still torn on Grove Tender. I'm not really sure if it's a good card.
I hate it.
Mill Druid, because
I think it's got even worse now. You've got the Druid of the Flame in the 3-drop spot for Druid.
Yeah.
It's just a really bad card.
Yeah.
I guess it works in this scenario, kind of. But
I'm not a huge fan of Trogzor either. I really don't like Trogzor. The only use I think Trogzor has in the current meta is probably against Freeze Mage, because it basically just secures a win. If you can get Trogzor out on like turn 7, Trogzor is infinitely better than Dr. Boom against Freeze Mage, but that's about it. Like, Trogzor is only good if you're playing it on an empty board.
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if we get any use of it. It's obviously not in the hand right now. DTwo could have been in trouble there if he'd played a second creature. Double Naturalized would have drawn him 4 cards. So, you know, that could have been pretty scary. But it's the Volcanic Lumberer. Okay.
Poison Seeds, Emperor Thorsan, reduce the cost of your cards, then you Poison Seeds, Starfall, and then double Volcanic
Well, there you go. That's the first draw. Quartermaster getting burned. That's a pretty good card to burn. I mean, he'd be pretty glad that he's got his Tyrion in his hand right now.
D2 is probably super
He's
scared.
gonna silence his own Acolyte. That's super smart from D2. That's a really good heads-up play against Mildred, thinking, hey, I don't think I want to draw cards, actually. I've decided, change my mind.
I've done some analysis on the past 3 sips that D2 has taken, and
Okay.
I actually don't think there's anything in that can. So...
I mean, I'm a big drinker myself, so
That's
you know,
an
I
interesting...
think it's a strong tactic.
That's an interesting... Oh, there goes another one. There's nothing in there. I swear.
I think he just has, like, multiple cans all in his desk as a big pack.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Volcanic Lumberer!
I guess that works. Because the
6
Innervate
mana?
kills the creatures, and then with the Wild Pyromancer, and then the Volcanic Lumberer comes out for 6 mana. He's vulnerable to BGH.
Yeah, I mean, the BGH is in hand, and I guess D2's probably going to have to go for that. Volcanic Lumberer seeing its first play here in competitive Hearthstone. I'm pretty sure that's the first time it's ever been seen in a tournament.
Well, I mean, it just came out like a day ago.
Still, we'll take it.
It was released
We'll
like
take the
2
credit.
days ago. And North American players have only had like 36 hours to even play with the card, so...
Well, not a lot of great options in the hand here for Tides of Time. Does have Thorsan, but he's looking at Wrath. Just wants to cycle. He's trying to think if he can make him draw more cards. Well, there's the Grove Tender. Grove Tender Naturalize, maybe? Or would that draw too many cards?
Yeah, I don't think he really wants to go for the naturalizes yet. You can get to the point in the game where your opponent plays like a big creature on their turn, and then you can like naturalize, and kill a big creature and make them overdraw. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much experience D2 has against playing against mill decks. But I can
It's
imagine.
not something you see too often.
Yeah, I can imagine he's quite scared right now because when you're playing against a deck that you don't know, that's one of the reasons why when you're playing on ladder, adding in some strange tech cards can really increase your win rate because people aren't used to it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday with the whole misdirection and snipe thing. Like misdirection is great if people don't think you're playing misdirection. Because you can win.
Or freezing trap in Face Hunter was the example we saw yesterday. Yeah, we saw that yesterday, and that was that really was a great play. It's tough to know what to do here. I mean, there's a Poison Seeds, but Poison Seeds makes the 1/1s better.
Yeah, it does, and it still summons the Death Rattle from the Paladin Shredder. So it's possible that you're going to put more power on the board. You're taking away 4, but you're adding in at least 3 and possibly more from whatever comes out of the Paladin Shredder. I like the Emperor Thorson here because this makes it so that he can make some bigger plays with Poison Seeds. I mentioned earlier in Mildred, Poison Seeds Starfall is usually a pretty popular combo because it's like a quality Consecrate essentially.
But for a lot more mana.
For a lot more mana unless you have Emperor Thorson.
Yeah.
You can get it to be the same mana with just like one turn of almost the same mana with just one turn of Emperor Thorson. So.
I mean, how well does D2 know his Mildred? Does he know that when he plays things like Tyrion that Naturalize is waiting?
You have to know, because even if you don't know much about Mildred, if you don't know like exactly which cards you play, Naturalize is the card that you know for sure is going to have 2 copies in that deck. You don't know if he's going to be playing like the Tree of Life version or like Double Healing Touch with a lot of board clear version. There's a couple cards that you can change in and out, and the win condition for Mildred sometimes changes. Sometimes they go straight mill, and sometimes they'll like run double combo just as I'll mill you out and then I'll combo you at the end to bring you closer to fatigue. So there's a couple different variations, but Naturalize is one of those cards that you know for sure is there.
Well, this is almost the perfect Quartermaster muster here.
I don't know. Again, Poison Seeds isn't that great.
No.
He can actually get pretty high health right here. 28 health with either double anti-killbot or anti-killbot healing touch.
Trying to think how much power there is for D2. He's gonna go for the Poison Seeds, I think.
Yeah, there's 22 power on board right now, so unless he double heals, he would be dead. But if he Poison Seeds here, then he's not really taking much away.
He can double heal after Poison Seeds.
Oh, the one thing about Poison Seeds though is one tree doesn't get spawned, but it's replaced by a 2/2 anyway.
That was a bit of a crapshoot there, but he did. It worked out okay, I guess. This does mean that D2 can't play anything. He has to clear the board a little bit before he can play anything.
Yeah, and I don't know if he doesn't want to play Lay on Hands, because if he plays Lay on Hands, that's going to be his only play this turn. He'll be at 8 cards.
Yeah, so getting yourself up towards 8 cards, that's pretty dangerous.
It's dangerous, yeah.
So I think he's going to go for the Lotheb Shredder.
Lotheb might be able to almost seal the game here. He does have some heal left with the anti-heal bot, but he can't really play anything else with the anti-heal bot because he's going to be locked out of spells.
Yeah, exactly. That's... Oh, 10 mana Starfall. He might have to do it.
I think he has to. Yeah.
That's really rough.
He has to. He'll still leave 9 power on the board plus the 1 power weapon. So Paladins don't have any way to do 10 or 7 damage from hand. 6 damage from hand is usually the most amount of burst that you can account for with True Silver Champion and Consecration. But that's when that tech card plays in. That's when you play Avenging Wrath, and all of a sudden you do just a ridiculous amount of damage out of nowhere, and your opponent doesn't expect it. They're thinking, oh yeah, Paladin's can only do 6 damage burst. Consecration, True Silver Champion.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a pretty difficult position. He's going to go for the Naturalize instead on the Lotheb, I guess. I guess that feels bad because Naturalize, you pretty much want to mill your opponent with Naturalize in this scenario. You don't want to be giving them cards that they can then use.
Yeah.
You want to be at least giving them at least making them burn 1 or 2 cards off a draw.
Yeah.
With the Naturalize, but this is looking pretty tough for Tides of Time here. Does have a Belcher, does have second True Silver.
How's he gonna beat anything else with this Mill Druid? What's D2's last deck? Druid. He's not gonna beat a mid-range Druid with Mill Druid. I don't think.
What I want to see is I want D2 to have decided to go with Mill Druid as well to beat other Druids, so we just see Mill Druid mirror.
Oh no.
Has that ever been seen before?
Probably not in a tournament. I don't think so. Not as long as I can remember. I don't think I've ever seen Mill versus Mill. Because when... oh man, I don't know how that would go, but I would actually really like to see a deck like that. Or a game like that. Mill Druid versus Mill Druid. This is pretty risky to put yourself at this amount of health. Because you're thinking, what's the only thing I need to play around? Double combo. Like, Force of Nature, Innervate, double Savage Roar. But he plays Sludge Belcher, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Because how's Mildred gonna win otherwise? I think he needs
mistake?
Poison Seeds. He's dead.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, he can Starfall and put himself to, and that would leave 7 power on the board.
He can Starfall, but then he can't do anything else.
We can Starfall Swipe, actually. Which would, I think, would leave whatever came out of the Shredder and a 1/2 Slime.
I suppose.
But like you say, I mean, it's, how does he win from this point?
He's got to find some time to draw cards. He has to find a safe turn to play Ancient of Lore. And there's just a lot of pressure being applied by D2 right now.
The Patient Assassin!
I don't think he really cares, because there's not really any high-value creatures that he's going to play on the board. I guess Ancient of Lore just really hurts to get Patient Assassined.
Yeah, that's not great. I mean, anything that you can kill, anytime you can kill something that's like 4 health or above with a Patient Assassin, that's really pretty great value.
I have no time for games.
It's very true.
If you kill anything that's 5 or above, it's officially better than Millhouse. Because Millhouse only does 4 damage.
Yeah.
Patient Assassin does, if it does 5 or above, it's better. Second Starfall.
That doesn't do him much good. I think he has to Ancient of Lore here. And if he does that, then he knows that it's just going to get killed. I mean, I guess he could Starfall and Naturalize to clear the board and get the Sylvanas out of the way.
That's pretty rough, though. And then, like you say, when you have to find time for the Ancient of Lore, and then when you've seen double Naturalize, D2's just going to drop Tyrion.
Yeah. Alright, he plays Naturalize, Ancient of Lore. Good sequencing, but pretty obvious sequencing.
Yeah.
It would actually be really sad if he didn't have good sequencing there.
It's actually a pretty good deck for Trogzor.
Ooh, the Cold Light Oracle.
So that's still only 9 cards.
Oh, Innervate Cold Light Oracle.
Oh my god! Oh, you got to do it, right? You've got to do it.
You have to.
Burn 2. Yeah, he's gonna burn 2 cards here, D2.
Yeah.
Innervate Cold Light. Let's look at his face.
I don't think.
D2's too cold and calculated to react.
Black Knight and Aldor Peacekeeper, I think, were the 2 cards. Those are not really that great, and he's actually getting like really close to lethal. So I don't think D2's anywhere near being fatigued. And since D2 can clear the board here, there's not really any worry of being Force of Nature Savage Roar comboed. He's actually seen both Innervates, so he knows that double combo is not a possibility. So as long as he stays above 14 health, with nothing on the board. Okay.
Alright, so there's 2 cards left in the deck for D2 and 5 for Tides. Does Tides have any healing left?
Tree of Life would be my only guess.
Wow, if Tree of Life were to come out here.
But Tree of Life would sort of give up any... Well, not really give up any possibility of him losing, but Sludge Belcher is going to come down just for a little bit of insurance. Poison Seed Starfall, though. I think he knows. He's just playing around it. He's just saying, well, I'll just get you a little bit lower.
Yeah, this is pretty safe play from D2. Does have another healing touch there. This is what I said. Does he have more healing?
Oh,
Clearly
no.
he does.
I was writing him off for this game, but there is actually a possibility that he wins. Because he has Poison Seed Starfall. So if he just heals this turn, hero powers up, just bides his time, you know, he actually has more cards in his deck than D2. He has 4 now to D2's 2. So just gonna swipe here. Swipe just to take out those like 2 damage off the board. Almost out of cards. Oh no.
Almost out of cards. Gotta be aware of how many cards you got. So Zombie Chow super late here to the party once again. Yeah, now you've seen this the both naturalizes. I guess Poison Seed's Starfall is the best way to deal with Tyrion at this point.
Oh man, so he does run double combo.
So I guess the second Savage Ore must be still in his deck as well.
No way. Okay. Oh, no. He's got True Silver Champion. He's actually going to have to equip his True Silver Champion, override his Ashbringer to win. Because next turn, he's going to take a point of fatigue, and he knows that combo is threatening.
Oh my god. This is actually super close.
That's game!
Oh my god!
That's game! He forced an Aegis Savage Ore. He's going to take 1 fatigue damage next turn. No
He
way!
didn't play around the combo!
No way! Oh my
Insane!
god.
The Tides drawing the combos right at the end.
That's gross. That is disgusting.
Oh my god.
He just...
Oh, didn't play around the combo.
Oh, man. That is...
So bad. And actually, yeah, the hero power. Because of the Savage Ore being cheaper, I didn't even need the fatigue because he had the hero power.
That's incredible.